You ready for this, Noah? I got a great intro here. Wait for it to build up. Wait for it. Wait for it. Wait for it. Ladies and gentlemen, we are live from the sold-out Layne LLC headquarters in Tampa, Florida. It's time! I'm answering your questions. What's that? What's up, guys? Hit me with your questions. I'm ready for them. How'd you guys like my Bruce Buffer impersonation? By the way, if you guys get a chance, make sure when you ask a question, don't just type it in the comments, put it in the questions section. I already see we got some in there right now. All right, let's see here. Lost 45 pounds in 8 months, want to gain muscle but be cut. What should I do? First off, awesome job. Great work. That's huge progress. So what I would say is if you're already at your desired level of leanness, then I would pick a lean gaining phase on the app, or a conservative gain phase or a conservative reverse. Either one will help you with that. Now, keep in mind, if you want to, I'm doing a post today on this, if you want to build significant muscle and you want to be drug-free, it is going to require that you probably add a little bit of body fat. I'm sorry, I know that's not popular amongst the influencer crowd right now, but if you're going to be drug-free and you're anywhere close to like in the ballpark of being well-trained in terms of training for a couple of years, you're probably going to have to add some body fat. Now, you don't have to get sloppy. You don't have to, eat like crap or anything like that. Try to focus on going slow, gaining slow, okay? And it will be much better than if you gain too quickly. And keep in mind, you can always cut it back off. So the idea is the research shows that when you gain a mix of fat and muscle. But when you cut, if you cut appropriately, the vast majority you lose will be fat. So by going through those appropriate, not inappropriate, appropriate gaining and cutting cycles, over time, you have a more impressive physique. Will there be an update on the app for measuring half servings? That makes no sense. You can just put in 0.5 for a serving, or you can, or you just, hang on, something's going on with this. Or you just put it in grams or ounces or whatever you want. Research is anecdote. No, it's not. You don't know what you're talking about. Dev G on YouTube says, how long do newbie gains last? So newbie gains, it depends, but probably about 6 months to a year. That's about the time. Now, if you started, it's not like you do 3 months and then if you stop training after 3 months and you don't train for 2 years and you go back, oh, I've only got 3 months of newbie gains left. No, you will get the same effect again, most likely. But about 6 months to a year, it appears. Sorry, just looking for a few questions. How many diet sodas do you drink a day? A few. I have 2 cervical herniated discs. My left arm is atrophied. Is there any hope for me to lift again? Absolutely. I herniated 2 discs in my cervical spine when I was 20 years old. Within 6 months, I was training heavy again. Okay? This notion that once you herniate a disc or you have an injury that you're just done, this is like thought process from the 1950s. If you look at the most current pain science research, we now know that up to 60% of people have asymptomatic herniated discs. Meaning if you took 100 people who were adults over the age 35, you put them on an MRI, 60% of them would have herniated discs, and most of them would be asymptomatic. Just because you have an injury does not mean you will have pain, and just because you have pain does not mean you have an injury. Pain doesn't work like that. Pain is more something like an emotion. It involves expectation, it involves sociological cues, it involves psychological cues. Now, people say, well, you couldn't just get shot and not feel pain. Well, it depends. It depends. There are soldiers who get shot during battle and don't even realize they've been shot until the fighting's over. Now, if you get shot in your brainstem, you're dead. But there are soldiers who get shot like flesh wounds, don't even realize they've been shot until after the battle when the adrenaline wears off. So just because you have tissue damage doesn't mean you have pain. Just because you have pain doesn't mean you have tissue damage. And you have to stop thinking like, oh, I have discs or herniated. We also show that discs spontaneously resolve themselves as well. Find a really good physical therapist who works with athletes. I promise you, if you do the work with physical therapy, you will be back training again in less than a year. Are you stronger with or without the beard? Come on, that's not even a question. I started taking creatine. Hang on. Started taking creatine. Does the water retention level off? I'm up 5 pounds after a week. Hey, first off, you're probably not up 5 pounds. Most people do not weigh themselves daily and take the average. Okay. If you want to know what your weight is actually doing, you have to weigh daily in the morning, first thing, and take the average. Because if you take just random weights, yeah, you'll be up 5 pounds, but it was likely that you were going to be up 3 or 4 pounds anyway due to fluctuations. That's totally normal. That being said, if you gained a lot of water weight on creatine, that's a good thing. That's awesome. That means that your body's creatine stores were actually pretty low, and now you've pumped them up. So you're actually going to get the most benefit out of creatine compared to somebody who doesn't gain anything. So it's good news. It's a good thing. It's water that goes inside the muscle cell. It doesn't make you look bloated. It doesn't make you look fat. That's all a myth. Be happy. It's a good thing. Can you adjust the macro ratios in the app? I just feel better with less carbs. Well, feelings are not facts. But that being said, I'm guessing you have never used our app because, yes, we have a multitude of dietary preferences. And even within those dietary preferences, you can shimmy the macros within a specific range. So, for example, if you choose the balanced approach, you can move the carbohydrate and fat of that balanced approach within a certain range until you get to a barrier where, like, for example, if you move the carbs so low on balanced, you get to the point where you're actually in low carb region. You could pick low carb, and there's also a range of carbohydrate and fat that you can move within that. So you can really, truly customize it to what's most sustainable for you in the app. Did I just quote Ben Shapiro? I don't know. Maybe I don't know what I said. What's the limit to how much protein you can use during a meal? I love this question. I have gotten this question for 20 years now. The answer has not changed. So you can utilize, first off, you have to define your terms. What do you mean by use? Now, what I think you mean is how much protein is optimal for building muscle at a meal. Now, as far as use, your body's going to use all of it, okay? If your body didn't use like protein that you ate, then you would just shit out whole pieces of steak or whole pieces of chicken, all right? You would have massive diarrhea every time you had a protein amount over that threshold because your body does not just let you have undigested material inside your digestive tract. It would pull water into that area and you would have massive diarrhea. That does not happen. Hence, you use all the protein that you take in, but how much of that is optimal for building muscle? That is probably anywhere. It's going to be variable. And it's going to be variable depending on the protein source, because sources that are higher in essential amino acids like leucine, you'll need less because leucine stimulates muscle protein synthesis. So that would be something like whey protein, egg, beef, whereas sources like wheat or most plant-based sources or peanuts are very low in leucine, so you'll require much more. So depending on the source and your inherent lean body mass, it will probably be somewhere around 20 to 60 grams, depending on those metrics. But what I would say is that if you are a normal-sized human and you are getting in anywhere from 30 to 50 grams a meal, you're probably safe. Okay, let's see here. I'm going to take a question off of Facebook and YouTube. Jeff asks, is there any need to make adjustments to the app, reverse, go to maintenance, calories, etc., or the app direct us accordingly? The app does have cues in there, but we didn't. The problem is if we make it really rigid, people aren't going to like that. So for example, if we just say, hey, after you've lost, like, how do we make that metric? After you've lost a certain amount of weight, it switches you. Like, that would really piss somebody off if they wanted to lose more weight, and now they can't because they're getting switched to a reverse diet. Now, when you reach your weight loss goal on Carbon Diet Coach, it will say, congratulations, you've achieved your goal. What would you like to do next? And you can continue losing weight. You could reverse diet. You could go to a lean gaining phase, or you could maintain. So it will give you those options. It will prompt you like that. Now, if you are doing a fat loss phase and your calories get very, very low, but you're still not losing weight, the app will also prompt you to reverse diet or go to maintenance. So it does have some prompts in there, but it's not just going to tell you what to do. But that's because I wouldn't do that as a coach either, okay? I would be listening to my clients' feedback. If you take a metabolism booster, can that skew the results of what your maintenance calories should be in the app? I'm not on one now. I'm considering doing that to boost fat loss. Any metabolism booster out there that's over the counter is probably horseshit. Now, there are a few that increase energy expenditure slightly, like 50 to 100 calories, that sort of thing. That is not going to make a massive difference over the long term if you're consistent weighing in daily and checking in regularly. Dev G says, have you considered using macros to display calories in the app versus displaying the calories off the food labels? This is talking about, the fact that your macros and your calories don't line up in any food tracker. Yes, we have. I can't really discuss it at the time, but it is something that's being worked on. But it sounds like a very, very simple implementation. But I can tell you it is not nearly as simple as anyone would have you believe. And there's a reason no apps have done it yet. But it is being worked on. All right, let's go back to Insta here. When using Carbon in the workout builder, how should cardio be set up for fat loss? It just depends. You don't have to do any cardio whatsoever. In fact, I'll tell you, there's no set amount of cardio you should do. Okay, that's the first thing. If you're very, very inactive, you might want to do more cardio just so your calories aren't so low. But it depends on like what your training's like, how much time you have, all those sorts of things. So what I will say is, I'll tell you what I do. I need to average 10,000 steps a day, and I wear a step tracker. Now, if I get to the end of the day and I've hit 10,000 steps and I don't have to do extra cardio, then I don't. But some days I get to the end of the day and I've only done, there's a few hours left of the day and I've only done, 7,000. That might mean I need to get out and do some purposeful cardio. But I never set out during the day saying I'm going to do purposeful cardio. Now, I do have some like hacks that I do. For example, when I'm putting up my social media post, so when I'm doing my daily social media, I usually will walk around our office parking lot, and that will help me get more steps. So I don't need to do more purposeful cardio later. So it saves me time. But yeah, you don't have to do anything. What I would say is, figure out what your average step count is when you're not in a fat loss phase, and then try to maintain that when you're in the fat loss phase. Okay. Larone, what's up, man? He says, when is the next update? I'm so excited. What are your favorite go-to high-volume, low-calorie foods and snacks? So the next update to the app, we're actually in the process of testing it now. I cannot say when it's going to be released because it could be next week. It could be next month. It just depends on how testing goes. And we do not like this update is going to be a big one. We do not like to put out things that are going to be filled with bugs. And that's just normal for apps. Apps are a great example of like government. Okay, let me give you an example. So politicians make a law, there's always unintended consequences. In the app, if you try and do something, if you do one little tweak, you have no idea how it's going to affect something on another aspect of the app. Like there's been stuff where we've done and we thought it'd be really straightforward, and it breaks something that we could not have foreseen it could possibly break that area of the app. So we really do a lot of thorough testing to try to limit those bugs. Now, there's always going to be bugs, no matter what. Not for everybody, but there'll always be somebody who has something funky come up and it'll hit a tripwire or whatever. And we try to address those as quickly as possible. But we want to make sure that we test it thoroughly so that there are as little as possible. And I really think this next build, you guys are really going to love it. Let's see here. Mako says, I've recently taken to a 16-8 intermittent fasting as I find it helps regulate my eating patterns. How detrimental is this to muscle protein synthesis? I train full body 3 times a week in the evenings before my final meal. Splitting hairs. If your goal is to be the most muscular person you can possibly be, it's probably not optimal. But if you're having 3 protein doses during that time, which if you have 8 hours to eat, you can eat at the beginning of the feeding window, middle, and then the end. If you're getting 3 high-quality protein feeding doses during that 8-hour feeding window, and you're doing that training during your 8-hour feeding window, you're probably fine. You can build plenty of muscle that way. Are you going to be as big and muscular as you possibly could be? Probably not. But you can certainly build an impressive physique doing that. Matthew says, if I track in MyFitnessPal, can it still give me the correct calories with the coach? So this is a great question. A lot of people say, what's the difference between Carbon and MyFitnessPal, et cetera, et cetera. Let me address all that. So Carbon, first of all, is a coach. It is not a tracker. Now, we include a tracker for your convenience, but the real value is in the coach. Now, some people actually still choose to use a different tracker than ours, and there's a reason that we allow that. So our tracker and the coach are not hooked up together fully, because if we did that, it would force people to use our tracker, and we did not want to do that to people because some people have tons of data from years in a certain tracker. That's what they're comfortable with. That's fine. They can still use that tracker and our coach. What I would recommend, Matthew, is that if you're going to track in MyFitnessPal, also, we don't have every country's database. So some countries, if they want to use a tracker, they'll use a different tracker and then use our coaching side of it. because MyFitnessPal doesn't have any form of coaching. So what you can do, Matthew, or anybody else out there, if you want to use a different tracker, but you also want to use Carbon Diet Coach and be able to see all your data, all you need to do, very simple, when you get to the end of the day in MyFitnessPal or whatever app you're tracking with, take a look at the total macros you've consumed and then put them into Carbon Diet Coach as a quick add. It will take you 5 seconds. And then you'll have all that data that the app can pull from regarding, what your calories, protein, carbs, fats are, so you can see them on your charts, as well as your total daily energy expenditure. So that is how I would do it, Matthew. Let's see here. Who out there uses Carbon? Raise the hands. How do you guys like it? Let's see here. The other thing too is if you live in a different country, you can always add custom foods, and that's very, very easy. I had somebody actually in Ireland, for example, who said, after a week of adding all the foods in as custom, they had their library completely built up, and it really wasn't a problem for them. So, wow, a lot of you guys using Carbon. That's fantastic. Love it. Thank you guys so much. Really appreciate it. That makes me feel good. Okay. Let's see here. Go back for more questions. I think. Let me see here. Oh, this is cool. I just wanted to say I appreciate all that you do. Have been following you since the bodybuilding forum times and have grown a lot since then. Hey, thank you very much. Really appreciate that. So for those who don't know, it's so funny. I'll have people be like, man, I've been following you forever. I've been following you since like 2014. And I'm like, 2014? I already arrived in 2014. My first entry into the fitness industry was posting on the bodybuilding.com forums back in 2001. That's when I got started. And I made, over the 10-year period, I made about 100,000 posts on various bodybuilding message boards, probably answered 300,000 emails for free, never expecting anything, wrote over 100 articles for basically free, did every single podcast I could get on, wrote for magazines for free, anything I could do to get my name out there. I probably put out thousands of pieces of free content. So when people ask me like, hey, how can, I want to get ahead in this industry, how can I do it? Be willing to put in tons of time that you're never going to get paid for. People see what we've done now. We're just starting to make a really good income. That's 20 years of grinding. And I know people hate that word, but it really is like 20 years of grinding. I was doing that while I was doing my undergraduate, while I was doing my PhD research, all that kind of stuff. Like, I truly believed that if I put out good content and helped people, then eventually the money would take care of itself. And so hopefully one day I'll get to retire my grad school car and actually buy a nice car, and my wife will be happy. Yes, I still drive my grad school car. No, I still drive my grad school car. Does everybody in the company have a nicer car than me? Let's see here. Carbon is a game changer. Food has been my biggest struggle for years, and I'm finally making progress. Awesome. I love hearing that. Guys, if you haven't heard of Carbon Diet Coach, please go check us out. We have an amazing app. No, I'm not finished. I'm just saying, we have an amazing app. It's helped tons of people. We have over 25,000 subscribers now. We just hit that last week. And that is with no paid advertising, nothing but good old-fashioned word of mouth. So, and our app has 4.7 stars on the App Store. If you've ever seen the App Store, you know how hard it is to get 4.7 stars. And when you're talking about 25,000 users, that's a lot of happy people. So, you know, it really, it makes me happy. Honestly, this is one of the things I'm most proud of. Okay, more questions. Good question. Hello from Greece. I create custom foods, but when I scan the barcode at different time, the app doesn't recognize them and I have to log it in again. Can this be fixed? This is something we'd have to do on the back end of things. It definitely has been discussed. It's definitely on our list of feature requests, but we have things that are more pressing that we have to get done in front of that. Are there any programmers out there, any people who've ever built an app or built a website or anything like that? You guys know that like this stuff that people request, no matter how small it sounds, is weeks of work in most cases. It really takes a lot of time to make sure you implement it and do it well so that it doesn't screw things up. So yeah, it's definitely on the list, but we're trying to. Yusuf, oh, thank you. I'm glad you feel my pain. There's some issue. There's some things with the app. We're trying to improve the speed and performance first because that is much more pressing. But yes, that is on our list of feature requests. But all you need to do is just search for it. So if you search for the name that you've called it, that you've entered it in, it'll be one of the first things that comes up because your custom foods are always prioritized in the search. Let's see here. Do you think mental health experts are doing enough to take into account good nutrition when treating people who are struggling, especially with COVID quarantines? Do you think people are missing a huge factor in their emotional health by not eating more nutritional foods at this time? There's no direct evidence that any particular foods improve your mental health. I think that if you're happy with your appearance and you're healthy and you feel good, that helps your mental health. But there's many different ways to that, and I don't think it necessarily means specific foods. Let's see here. Loving the app. Awesome. Thank you. Let's see here. Okay, let's see here. Let's go back to Insta. Opinions on strong fit nutrition protocol. I have no idea what that is. So guys, if you ask me about a book, about a team, about a product, unless they're a direct competitor, I probably don't know anything about it. I say this with the most respect in the world. Holly and I wake up in the morning and we do not stop moving until usually around 10 p.m. at night. The other night, we didn't finish work until about midnight. Literally, we're lying in bed replying to social media comments or social media messages. So, we don't look at other people's stuff. We don't have time. We're too busy with the stuff that we're trying to do. So if you ask me what my opinion is on a particular thing, if it's a product or like a book or whatever, I probably don't know. Let's see here. All right. A lot of triggering language in this one. Any supplements you recommend for gut healing? I have Hashimoto's, so I want to heal my gut to help with autoimmune disorder. What evidence do you have that your gut is unhealthy? Just because there's a link between Hashimoto's and the gut, like have you actually had a stool sample done to look at your gut microflora to see if there actually is a problem? Because if you haven't, then you simply don't know. I hear this all the time. People say, well, my hormones are messed up. And they actually haven't had their hormones measured. Oh, my gut's bad. Well, why is your gut bad? Well, I have gas or it hurts sometimes. Well, that could be IBS. That's not necessarily caused by gut microbiota. And if you have gas and bloating and that sort of thing, your good gut microbiota, they produce gas. Like, that's part of what they do. Just the fact you have gas and feel bloated does not mean your gut is unhealthy. So I think, again, I'm saying this respectfully, you're listening to social media influencers who are trying to sell you stuff. They're trying to use, now I'm not saying you don't feel that the way you feel is wrong. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying you don't have symptoms. I'm saying that you don't know that it's actually your gut unless you've had that assessed. So these scumbags are trying to use your desperation to feel better in order to sell you bullshit. As far as gut supplements go, as you know, for the microbiome, nothing has been shown to really do a whole lot, not even probiotics. Now, prebiotics do help, but prebiotics are just simply prebiotic fibers. If you are getting a wide variety of soluble and insoluble fibers, you are doing the best thing for your gut that you can possibly do. The next best thing might be to limit saturated fat, because there's evidence that the compounds formed from bile salts and saturated fat emulsion may have a negative impact on the gut microflora. If the label says food is 135 calories, but the macros add up to 93.4, which one is right? Being very specific. So it's not a case of right or wrong. The issue is that it's how labeling laws are. So food manufacturers are, one, allowed to round up or down to the nearest 5 to 10 calorie increment. They're also allowed to subtract fiber from the calorie amount. But that's probably not a good idea, because even though fiber isn't digested like a normal carbohydrate, it can be fermented by the colon and by the bacteria in the colon and reabsorbed as short-chain fatty acids, and you still get quite a bit of the calories from it. So in reality, probably neither is correct, but you just need to pick one and be consistent with it. Somebody said, what is the workout builder? The workout builder is on our website, biolayne.com. It has custom training templates. So basically, we have different templates for different goals. And the workout builder will tell you how many reps you need to do, how many sets you need to do, and will tell you what the intensity should be in terms of your rate of perceived exertion. But you get to choose the exercises that you prefer and also have available. So not every gym has the same equipment. So we have grouped exercises so that amongst that group, you can choose the one that you have available or prefer, still get all the benefits because we're grouping them in a way that's appropriate. And for people who are stuck at home or at lockdown, whatever, we also have home training programs, even if you have absolutely zero weights whatsoever. So definitely check out the BioLayne Workout Builder. It's one of the best deals going. A lot of people in Carbon use it. Yeah, it's a good deal. Good question. I'm vegan and Carbon sets my protein lower because, hang on, I need to look at this. I'm vegan and it sets my protein lower because of that. Oh yeah, because you're vegan. Wouldn't it be bad? Would it be bad to up the protein if I don't struggle to get more? Okay, great question. So this is one thing where you can have what research says, but what is actually practical. The research says that vegans need more protein, not less. But most vegans really struggle to get in a lot of protein. And so we made the protein requirement lower, still in evidence-based ranges, but lower on the plant-based setting on Carbon Diet Coach, because we didn't want to set it to a point where many people would have trouble hitting it, feel frustrated, and give up. So we tried to get them to a reasonable level. But if you want to consume more, you absolutely can. In fact, you don't have to pick the plant-based option. You can pick any of the other options and then just simply shimmy the protein to what is sustainable for you while using plant-based foods to hit those macros. Recommend switching to plant-based while starting carbon. That's up to you. There's very little evidence that plant-based is healthier than an omnivore diet, as long as you're consuming lean meats and not overeating saturated fat. But if you're doing it for ethical reasons, because you want to minimize harm to animals, then sure, you could do it. Hi, Layne. Can you explain to me a little more how to pair the calories I eat with the calories that I burn? My advice to you is to stop worrying about the calories that you burn. If you want to not make progress, then eat back the calories that you burn. These devices are completely inaccurate for caloric expenditure. They overestimate energy expenditure by approximately 25 to 95%, depending on the device used. And therefore, you actually do not know how many calories you are burning. Now, that being said, it probably is relatively accurate from day to day, meaning that if you know that your device says on a normal hour-and-a-half workout that you burn 500 calories, but another day it says you burn 700, you probably burned more on the 700. Now, the problem is you don't know exactly how much that is, which is why I don't recommend eating back the calories that you quote unquote burn, because you'll end up eating back more calories than you actually burned. If you simply track your intake and watch your weight, you don't need to know how many calories you're burning, because you've got 2/3 of the equation. You can solve the rest of it. Okay? So if I know I'm eating 3,300 calories a day and my goal is fat loss, and I am weighing myself daily and taking the average and using the app, and I see that after a week I haven't lost weight, and after 2 weeks I haven't really lost weight, well, if you're using the app, it's going to adjust you automatically, no problem. But if you're not using the app, well, then guess what? Your watch can say whatever the hell it wants to say. If you're eating a certain amount of calories and you're not dropping weight, you're not in a deficit, period, and you need to lower your intake. It doesn't matter what this says. What matters is what happens with your body weight relative to the amount of calories that you're eating. Best practices for tracking a glass of wine: take the calories from either carbohydrate or fat. All right. Let's see. Any way of using Carbon Diet Coach on maintenance when pregnant? I do not recommend using maintenance while pregnant unless you are somebody who is already overweight or obese. If you are a normal weight human being, you need to allow some weight gain when you are pregnant, period. And from your profile picture, you look like you're in pretty good shape. So you need to allow for weight gain. This is not about you. This is about your future child. I would put it on either a reverse diet setting, or I would put it on a conservative gain setting. Anywhere from 20 to 30 pounds of weight gain is a completely healthy pregnancy for most people. And again, this isn't about you. Your physique will come back. You only get one chance to bring this child into the world. I'm not trying to shame you. I'm just keeping it real with you. All right, guys. I think that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this Q&A. If you have more questions, you can always ask it in the comments, because I'll put this up on the Carbon Q&A, or DM us, whatever. We're happy to help you out. Please make sure you go check out our app if you haven't done so already. Carbon Diet Coach. We've got over 25,000 users. We've got 4.7 star rating on the App Store. People are loving it. We think you will too. And hey, who doesn't want awesome evidence-based nutrition coaching for less than $10 a month? All right, guys. Hope you all have a great Friday and a wonderful weekend, and I will catch you next time.